to have a Grammy-nominated, Dove Award-winning singer, songwriter, artist, Mr. Joseph Habedank. Before we get into the video, make sure you subscribe. If you're on my channel, click that big red subscription button down there and click the bell to get all my notifications. And if you're on my blog, click right over there in that little box, enter your email, and you will get an email sent straight to your inbox every single time I upload anything. Alright, if you're just as excited as I am to go see it, then let's go. Hello everyone, welcome back to the blog. Today I am so honored to have a Dove Award winning, a Grammy nominated singer, songwriter, just a fabulous person, Mr. Joseph Habedank. So thank you for being here.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you so much for having me, and Merry Christmas. When's this going to air? Do we know?
This will be up on the 18th, so it'll be before Christmas.
Merry Christmas to everybody, and you'll have to excuse my appearance. I am at home on Christmas vacation, and I just left the gym, and so I haven't shaved, and I'm wearing my comfy clothes, so please forgive me for not wearing a suit and tie.
You're good. You're fine. You're totally fine. All right. So first things first, tell it for people who may not know about you, which I don't know how they couldn't, but for people who don't know about you, tell us a little bit about your ministry and who you are and what you do.
Well, we started our ministry back in 2014, so we're just about a little less than 4 years old. I traveled the country with my wife, Lindsay, who is behind the scenes and runs the sound, and she's our office manager as well. We actually have an administrative assistant who helps her out. Her name's Heather, but we travel together and have a great time. We're on the road about 150 days a year, and a big part of our ministry is helping people that are going through addiction. It's something that's in my past and something that I'm really passionate about. So that's a big part of our ministry. And man, I tell you what, you just never know when you start a new ministry how God's going to open doors or what's going to happen. And it's just been an amazing experience to watch God move. And I'm so grateful for the opportunities that He's given us.
Yes, well, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your start in gospel music, how you got started.
Well, I started singing with my family when I was probably 4 or 5 years old back in Ohio, and then my family stopped singing, and then I started doing a little bit of solo work when I was about 16, 17 years old, and actually I was 16. Then when I was 17, the Perrys, a group called the Perrys, hired me out of Morristown, Tennessee. I moved to Morristown, started singing baritone. 3 years after that, I started singing lead. I was with them about 10 years, and then in 2013 came off the road. Was off the road for about 7-8 months, and then started our solo ministry. So my start was probably more the Perrys than it was anything. That's when I started singing more professionally and doing it full time as a ministry. And so, tell you what, just been a great journey, and certainly grateful to the Perrys for giving me my start.
Yes, I know, and y'all had some phenomenal hit songs come out with the Perrys. So, what is one of your favorite memories with the Perrys?
I was there about a year when things really started taking off. The Perrys had never really won an award before, and they had won Mixed Group of the Year about a year after I joined it. That was a pretty neat memory to watch the fans kind of embrace them, and also to acknowledge their hard work and their ministry. And I always tell people I really got in at a great time when the Perrys were just really kind of taking off as a ministry, and I'm so grateful that I got to be there as a part of that, and got to see so many souls touched and lives changed because of the music and the great songs, and certainly grateful for everything they've done to prepare me for what I'm doing today.
Yeah, they're a phenomenal group. All right, so not only do I love your music and your ministry, but also you have a awesome testimony, and I know it's already helped a ton of people, and it's already ministered to so many. So if you don't mind, just share your testimony and a little bit about those things.
Well, yeah, I was raised in a great Christian home, but I was raised around addiction. I had a brother who's a drug addict, and so grew up kind of around that. Absolutely didn't really understand it. Definitely didn't like it. And as the years went on, when I joined the Perrys, kind of all my dreams kind of started coming true. And one night my mom called me and asked me to pray for my brother. And I actually prayed for God to take his addiction away and give it to me, which is just a crazy thing to pray. And not too long after that, I had an ulcer on the back of my throat. and was introduced to pain medicine, got hooked on pain medicine. I was taking 10 to 12 pain pills a day, and ended up having to come off the road because of that. I went and got some great help, and it's almost been 5 years now that I've been off of all prescription pain medicine. And it's a big part of our ministry, as I said
Mhm.
earlier, trying to encourage people and give people hope, because even if there's not somebody in the audience who's struggling with
Mhm.
addiction, there's usually a family member of someone who's struggling that we can kind of encourage and let people know that it's possible to overcome this through Jesus
Mhm.
Christ and what he did on the cross for us. So certainly grateful for that. And I tell you what, really grateful that God allowed me to go through that, and
Mhm.
that He kind of prepared me for the ministry that we have today because of what He allowed us to walk through.
Mhm. Yeah, I know. And sometimes, like, we don't understand why we go through the things that we do. And it's all
Right.
because God wants to use us to minister to other people in a way that somebody else can't relate to them and they can't minister to them. So that's wonderful. All right. So what advice would you give a younger person or even an adult that's dealing with this and really doesn't know what to do? What advice would you give them? What would you tell them?
Well, I think it's important to talk to people when you're going through addiction, because a lot of times when addicts are addicted to something, they're embarrassed and they're
Mhm.
ashamed, and rightly so. There's a lot of shame that comes with that. But what there is not shame in is for you to go to someone and be honest and just
Mhm.
say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. Will you help?" The
Mhm.
biggest thing is to concentrate on those relationships, and obviously we have to concentrate on talking to God in these
Mhm.
times, because we feel so unworthy to go to Him when we're
Yeah.
struggling with something like this. But God is so much more forgiving and gracious and kind and merciful than our human minds can comprehend. And
Mhm.
so He is glad to hear from us. That's why He died on the cross, to pay for these
Mhm.
kind of things. So I think it's just important to open up communication with others and to let them know what you're struggling with, so that you can get the help that you need.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. And it's so crazy because I mean a lot of people don't you never know what the person that's next to you in church or near you on every
Right.
day, you never know what they're going through. And so that's such important advice is, to be honest with people. And so that's great. So switching gears a little bit, tell us a little bit more than you did in the beginning about your solo career. It's taken off, the Dove Award this past year and then the Grammy nomination. Congratulations on that. So tell us a little bit more
You.
about that. That's awesome.
Well, it's just been a great journey. When you start out a new ministry, you just never know, as I said earlier, what's going to happen. And,
Mhm.
you're always kind of fearful of rejection and
Mhm.
people not really accepting it, especially in an industry where there's so many groups and it's very harmony driven.
Mhm.
This whole Southern gospel music was based on quartets, which is
Mhm.
obviously four guys and a lot of harmony. And you don't have that when you're a soloist. So it was a big chance. But I knew, even though there was people kind of telling me it's going to be hard to make it as a soloist, I
Mhm.
knew that's what God wanted us to do, and I
Mhm.
had to follow His leading in this particular place. So we started it just to kind of see what happened. Out of the gate, we had a great record company that I was with when I was with the Perry. It's called Day One Records, that
Mhm.
signed me. They actually encouraged me to start a group, but I just couldn't get peace about it. They said, "Okay, we'll sign you anyway." So we went on as a solo ministry. Did an album called Welcome Home. It did really well. Had
Yeah.
about I think it had two top five songs and two top 10 songs. And then the second album, Resurrection, is kind of what has catapulted this
Yes.
year into what has really become a great year. And God has just really blessed it. And I'm grateful to obviously the record company and our producer, Wayne Hahn, who's just a
That's
musical
awesome.
genius. And yeah, he's just amazing. And I think we've really tried to surround ourselves with good people
Mhm.
that have helped us. There's a team of people that make this ministry go round, and it goes straight from our booking agent Scott Caldwell to our record company, as I said, Day One Records. It goes to our manager Fred Singleton, our administrative assistant Heather, and the person that a lot of people don't realize who does just about everything is my wife Lindsay. And so it takes a team of people. Our publicist for a long time, Aaron Chrysler. There's so many people that make this thing work. Our producer Wayne Hahn, all the songwriters, all the musicians.
Mhm.
So it takes a team of people, and I'm really proud of the people that we've surrounded ourselves with. and the people that have helped us along the way and that continue to help us now and to be on our team, and just really grateful for the team that God's given us.
Yeah, that's one thing that I love about the Southern gospel industry is that everyone's so supportive, and if they can help
Yeah.
you, they will. And so I love that about this industry. So, talking about songs in the new album is phenomenal. So
Yeah.
talking about, songwriting, you're a phenomenal songwriter. So tell us a little bit about the song Middleman, and where did that song come from? That's like my favorite song off the whole record, that has an awesome melody line. So where did that come from, that song?
Well, I was sitting down with a young girl named Megan Molnix.
Mhm.
I almost said her maiden name, which is Sorrell, but Megan Molnix. And she came in the room and said, "Hey, I got this idea called Middleman." We weren't writing for my album that day, but we were writing with a guy named Lee Black, who's a brilliant
Yeah,
melody writer.
awesome.
And we sit down. She kind of reads us this lyric in the middle of the temple.
Mhm.
There's a boy who's wise beyond his years. It's basically saying that Jesus is in the middle of everything,
Mhm.
and ultimately he became the middleman on the cross, and that's what
Mhm.
that's the act that saved all of our lives. And
Mhm.
so we kind of played off that, and Lee had this amazing melody that he wrote, and then by the end of the song, I told him, I said, "Would you guys be okay if I held this song for my new album?" And they were like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I held the song, and it was one of the first songs that I just knew was going to be on the record, because I
Mhm.
just loved, as you mentioned, the melody. I love the
Yes.
message in the song, and and I'm really grateful because this is Megan's. She's a young writer. It's her first
Mhm.
cut on an album, and so really, really excited for her, and grateful that she gave us the idea, and so grateful to Lee Black for helping us write it. So, as I said earlier, it takes a village of people
Yeah.
to do what we do. These songs that a lot of times I get credit for writing, if it wasn't for my co-writers, these songs
Mhm.
wouldn't get written, and I'm just grateful for them.
Wow, yeah, I love that song. I listen to it all the time. So, what advice would you give other aspiring songwriters who feel like that they've been called to write songs and things like that? What advice would you give them?
Well, there's an amazing workshop in St. Louis, Missouri called Write About Jesus, and
Mhm.
I would encourage every single person that wants to be a songwriter to go there. It happens every year in October. It's 3 days. You will be inundated with information, and you'll be able to make relationships with other co-writers. You'll be able to meet people like Tony Wood, who
Mhm.
writes for my album, Sue Smith, who actually puts on the workshop, who
Mhm.
writes on my albums, Kenna West, who writes on my albums, Lee Black, so many different
Wow.
songwriters will be there, and they'll kind of teach you their expertise and tell you how to become a songwriter. So definitely, that's what I would say. Write About Jesus is an amazing, amazing resource for people that want to be Christian songwriters.
Well, that's awesome. All right, so we are going to get into the speed round. So these are just a little bit faster questions. So, what is your favorite song that you've ever written with anybody?
Oh my goodness, probably Here He Comes. Love
Yeah,
Here He
that one
Comes.
we listen to that one a lot too. We love that one. All right, what has been the most memorable moment of your solo career this far?
Boy, I tell you what, I had a lot of them this year. Probably the Fan Award was cool to win Soloist of the
Hmm.
Year, and then the Dove Award was cool. I'd say those two are probably tied. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, that was
Those are two
awesome.
things I'll never forget, just to be able to kind of be validated as a solo artist. So I'm so
Mhm.
grateful to everybody who voted.
All right, and then one of the things that I love about your music is that hearing you on the CD, you sound awesome, and then whenever we listen to you live, go to a concert, you sound just the same. And a lot of times that's really hard for people because they can't hold that vocal stability. So, who is one of your biggest vocal influences?
There's a guy that probably a lot of Christian people don't know. His name's Michael Bublé,
Hmm.
who is my probably my favorite singer. He sings kind of the old Frank Sinatra style. He's more of a
Hmm. He's
uh,
so good.
jazz pop singer. He's
Hmm.
my favorite, and so I listen to him a lot and kind of study his vocal abilities, and he's remarkable. He's incredible. I hope I get to meet him at the Grammys. We'll see what
That
happens.
would be so cool. That would
Never
be
met him.
awesome.
Yeah.
That would be so awesome. All right, and so this question I had to throw in there because I love the Irwins and I love Katie Irwin. She's awesome. So
Oh, I do
y'all
too.
did a Resurrection of Faith tour. So how was that? How did that go?
Oh, it's amazing. It's still going. We're starting in 2018 again in California, and I think we got about 20 dates in
Wow.
2018. It's an amazing tour, and
Awesome.
and we have so much fun together. I think people see that. I think people
Mhm.
see the camaraderie between the Irwins and me, and how much we love each other. And little Katie is my little buddy, and I love her so much. And she is definitely a highlight. And all the guys, of course, we love Chris and Keith and
Mhm.
Cody, and their wives are amazing people, and of course Tiffany and Dennis, and even little Laney, who's the little
Mhm. So
baby,
cute.
our little mascot on the tour. And we just, man, we just love the Irwins. They're kind of like family to us. And so I told people the only bad thing about that tour is that we have too much fun, so it doesn't feel like we're actually working.
Well,
So it's so fun. We have a great time.
well, that's awesome. All right, and then what has been your favorite place to sing so far?
Oh goodness. Well, there's a few. We just did one in Conroe, Texas, Mims Baptist
Mhm.
Church. We did a Christmas thing. It's one of my favorites. Temple Baptist in Coleman, Alabama, is one of my favorite churches ever. Victory Baptist in Rockmart, Georgia, is
Mhm.
another one of my favorite places. But there's so many. Brooklyn Tabernacle would top the list, but it's I
Wow.
haven't been there since I was a solo artist. So
Mhm.
hoping to get to go back one day. I was there with the Perrys, and so there's so many amazing places that I've gotten to sing. And got to sing on the Ryman Auditorium this year. Got to sing at the Grand Ole Opry this year. So
Mhm.
just so many cool things and that God has done, and things that I would have never really even dreamed up. But
Mhm.
God makes them happen. I'm so grateful for that.
Well, that's phenomenal. All right, so the one question that I like to end on always is, what advice would you give somebody who wants to do it, what you do, have a ministry, songwriting, all that tied together? What advice would you give them?
Well, I think it's important to make great relationships with people.
Mhm.
And that's not to say that you should make relationships with people so that you can use them, but
Mhm.
it's to make great relationships because that's really what makes the world go round, are
Exactly.
relationships.
Mhm.
And frankly, even spiritually speaking, our relationship with Christ, without that, we don't have eternal life through Jesus
Mhm.
Christ. And so we have to concentrate on those relationships. Stay close to God. That's the number one relationship.
Mhm.
Follow His will for your life. Read the Bible. Pray. These are simple things that
Mhm.
people often, because of the busy, hectic
Yeah.
lives that we lead, and social media and our cell
Mhm.
phones and all kinds of things distract us from the Lord. The
Mhm.
relationship with Christ is the number one thing. And then make great relationships with people that you can learn from.
Mhm.
People in the industry, whether they write, if you want to be a songwriter,
Mhm.
make friends with other songwriters. If you want to be a record executive, make friends with the record companies. And so it's all about relationships. And as I said, ultimately our relationship with Christ is the most important thing, and then our relationship with people.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. So thank you again so much for being on the blog. I really, really appreciate it. It was an absolute honor. Where can they find your music and your tour info and all that? Where can they find that?
You can go to josephhabedank.com. It's a little
Mhm.
tricky. Josephh. That's the easy part. Joseph, and then Habedank is H-A like ha, and
Mhm.
B-E-D like bed, and A-N-K like bank without the B. So
All right, yeah, and then
Habedank.
yeah, and I will leave the links down below so that people can go check out and
Perfect.
buy CDs. And awesome, y'all definitely need to get the CD if you haven't. It's all of the CDs are phenomenal. And just another note, they ever since we got back from a couple concerts, I started telling a lot of my friends and a lot of them at the college here in my city, and they love your music. And so that's one of
Oh,
the
cool.
reasons why I love your music is because it goes through all the generations and it ties them together,
Yeah.
and it's bringing people that normally don't listen to that style of music. It's bringing them in, and they're like, oh wow, this is phenomenal. So thank you again for sacrificing, traveling, and thank you so much for doing that. It makes a huge difference in people's
Well,
lives.
it's my privilege, and I want to say thank you because one of the first things that I prayed when I started my solo ministry, I was going in to record my first solo album, and I said, God, will you let this touch every generation, and that it
Mhm.
will span generations? And so, thank you for saying that because that was a prayer that I prayed, and I'm so glad to see that come to fruition, and that God has kind of granted me the desires of my heart in that regard. So, thank you for encouraging me, and thanks for having me on. And by the way, I'm sorry I'm in a old hat again, and I'm in my car. but it's just one of those days where this is where I'm at. So this
Well,
is
you
kind of
are fine.
behind the scenes of my life. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much again. You have a blessed day.
You.
All right. Thank you.
Bless
Bye.
you.
Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to give it a big thumbs up and comment down below of what was your favorite part of the video. And be sure to stay tuned to the blog and to the channel for more interviews coming soon. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.